Hey everybody, it's Preston Poulter. My barbed wire decks for Vampire the Eternal Struggle have been selling pretty well, so I made another video because the last one I made was in multiple parts and people complained the sound quality wasn't all that good, so I made another one. And in this one I tried to showcase the Tremere deck because I put a lot of work into that one, and the Tremere are not typically a very well liked clan. And so I had the Malkavians bleeding into the Tremere to show how well the Tremere can handle that scenario. Unfortunately, the Malkavians won, but that's just how the cards fall sometimes. I made a critical mistake, but you'll see. So, one of the concepts that I really used in making the Tremere deck was a combination of telepathic counters to reduce the bleed, and then the telepathic misdirection to redirect the bleed. And I view that kind of like a judo philosophy, which is you get your opponent going one way and then you shift direction and you go the other way. So with telepathic counters, they're thinking, oh, I've got to hit him for a big bleed, and then you redirect it, or just so you see what I'm talking about, let me show you a judo throw. All right, watch Ronda Rousey in the black trunks. She's a Olympic medalist in judo, and boom, right there. See, she set up her opponent thinking that she's about to step in and do a hip toss forward, and so she starts leaning back, and when she does that, watch this. Boom. And what can I say? I'm trying to make these VTES videos as exciting as I can. Alright, so here we go into actually looking at the decks themselves. There's the starting match for the Malkavians. I have a game of Malkav in the actual deck, but obviously since I'm playing myself, I can't really do a game of Malkav, so instead I'm using that as an ascendance here. So the Malkavians start turn 1, they gain 1 off of an imaginary ascendant. And I know you're looking at that starting hand thinking, well, what kind of weird combat bleed deck is this? And those are almost all the weapons in the deck. They just all happen to be clumped together. I threw some weapons in there together with disguised weapons for when they get rushed. It kind of added to the goofy element of the Malkavians that somebody rushes you and you bust out a blowtorch. I think some people will like that. It is too many, though, for a starting hand, so I go ahead and discard a 44 Magnum, and to replace it, I draw a Police Department, which should be helpful with the Bruja as a predator. Looking now at the Tremere, that's quite a starting hand. I mean, they are ready for all kind of bleeds. They can misdirect them, they can reduce them, they can intercept them. They're loaded for bear. Now for the Nosferatu, they're so special, they have a starting hand of 8 cards. Why? Because they're opening up with the Elder Library as their first play. So. Fairly typical opening hand there. We got some bleeds, got some votes, got some stealth. We decided to bring up Nikolaus Vermeulen after looking through the whole crypt, because we got 3 transfers, and then he comes up and he starts moving his blood all around. It's great fun. So here he's coming up as soon as I finally decide on it. And now let's take a look at the Bruja. Boy, that is a hand of combat cards if I ever saw one. They're ready to own some face. Unfortunately, Lupo can't really play most of them. Bianca would do great with them, as would Helena Casimir, but it's going to take a while to bring those up, so we'll just start with 2 transfers, bringing up Lupo, and put the other ones off to the side. Alright, back to the Malks. We can go ahead and play the Police Department, and let's see what we draw to replace here. A change of target, which can be handy if you happen to get redirected and the Grand Prey can actually block you. That happens sometimes, sometimes not. It actually does happen in this game, but unfortunately I discard the change of target. So 2 transfers is going to bring up Normal, and then we'll have 3 transfers to bring up Gilbert next turn. 4 transfers on Cassandra for the Tremere, so Cassandra will come up next turn. I'm actually going to get a free bleed though. There's Nikolaus Vermeulen coming up. And now going over to the Bruja, they have Lupo at the ready, who will come in to bleed. And Normal probably doesn't want any piece of that because he doesn't know, he doesn't want to go to Torpor. It hates if you go to Torpor without even taking an action. So they'll take 1, and the Edge, represented by that bottle of Biofreeze, goes to the Bruja. 4 transfers onto Helena Casimir, and then we will go to the Malks. So Normal. Hey, it just so happens I have computer hackings. People disliked my computer hackings, but I think they work well in this deck, actually. So anyway, Normal will bleed for 2. We draw into a Bonding, which he doesn't have any Dominate, so he can't play that. And Cassandra's not even up yet, so Boom. 2 to the dome. Biofreeze moves. 4 transfers. Here comes Gilbert Duane. And off to a relatively fast-paced game. Now we're off to the Tremere. 4 transfers. There's Cassandra. Cassandra's special ability is her hand size increases by 1, so we draw a Thaumaturgy skill card, which she cannot use, but oh well. Now for the Nosferatu. His special ability is to move 1 blood, which will come in very handy because now he can bring up Sheldon in just 2 turns. And Nicholas Vermeulen will play the Labyrinth, giving him stealth whenever he needs it, or anybody else on his side. Drew into another Shattering Blow. Probably don't need 2 of those. We'll get rid of one of those eventually. And Nicholas Vermeulen's first move would be, hey, why not go get a laptop computer? The better to bleed you with, my dear. And there we go. Cassandra's not going to be blocking that. She's got more to worry about. Drew another Praxis Seizure. Don't need 2 of those because there's only 1 untitled vampire in our crypt, Sammy. So go ahead and discard that during the discard phase. Boom. Kind Resources contested. Now we're talking. Okay, off to the Bruja. There's Lupo. He's going to fake it like, okay, I know you don't want to mess with me. I've got Fist. Gilbert Duane would probably brave it, so he tries to block, and it turns out Lupo can't play in those combat cards. So, all right, hands for 1, and Gilbert does hands for 1. A very exciting fight to start off the match here. Not quite as exciting as the Ronda Rousey fight, but whatever. We try. And now here comes Helena Casimir. Now she's great. She's not a Bruja, but she has superior potence, she has celerity, and she bleeds for +1, and she has a title. So she goes in very well in this deck because she has the theme of bruise and bleed just built right into her, the +1 bleed. Back to the Malks, whose starting hand just doesn't include any stealth. Normal will probably go and get a 44 Magnum instead of doing it the stylish way with the Sky's Weapon later. But, oh well, we do as best we can. That allowed us to draw into a Govern, which, hey, that has a built-in +1 stealth, so Gilbert Duane will target Ozma with that. Now I'd have to decide if the Tremere, with Cassandra Magus Prime, would attempt to intercept that using Enhanced Senses. And I made a critical error here on behalf of the Tremere's part, and I decided not to block that. Which, given their hand, they have no stealth there. You could have stopped the combat with change of target or something, but still. I allowed the Govern to go off, which allowed Ozmo to come up, and now we're looking at 3 bleeders, and it just got ugly really quick. So that was a critical blunder on the part of the Tremere. So, just so you know, boys and girls, if you can stop those early Governs, you definitely should. Now let's go back to the very besieged Tremere. I'm trying to decide if I want to discard something for the mouse. I drew into a Baron, so I guess if I can discard something, I can do it later. Alright, so here are the Tremere. Yeah, I'm definitely not going to take an action to equip a Flak Jacket looking at those 3 bleeders, so she'll probably just stand there. And hey, we transfer up Aleph, which gives us 2 superior Auspex vampires, which, is promising. Now, going to the Nosferatu, Nicholas Vermeulen moves another one over to Sheldon, and I should have transferred 4 to him last turn, so I'm doing that right now. The cheating phase never ends. Alright, here comes Nicholas Vermeulen to bleed into the Bruja for 2, and Helena Casimir would attempt to block. He would use the Labyrinth for stealth, then she would go, okay, and I'm going to deflect that into the Malkavians, who can't do anything about a stealth bleed for 2, so they're just going to take 2. And that would move the edge over to the Nazis. And that was his turn, so 4 transfers should bring up Sheldon, and that would give them total vote lock. Oh, and I forgot to gain a pool for the Malks for retaining the edge, so they gain a pool. This ends up being very critical as the game plays on, so anyway, they skated by on that 1 pool to victory, as it turns out. Here comes Sheldon, and I had 1 extra transfer, so that's over there on Selma. Now here come the Bruja to act. Lupo probably does Hunt, and Helena Casimir, well, she can't really block any of those guys and shouldn't have any more deflections, so it's time for her to bleed for 2. And let's see what the Malks would want to do. I don't think Ozma would want to really tangle with Helena Casimir, so we're probably just looking at taking 2. So 2 pool down, and 4 transfers, or, well, let's see, 4 transfers, put 3 on Uma Hatch, and 1 on Bianca. Uma Hatch comes up. She's the only vampire in that crypt that doesn't have potence. And, you can do okay with her, but still. The Bruja ended up being a little hobbled, and the major fighter, because this ended up being Helena Casimir, who needed to be the forward bleeder. But alright, so going down to the Malks, here we go. Alright, normal, he's got his gun, he's feeling bold, he's going to come in and computer hack bleed. And we finally drew into a stealth, a spying mission. Alright. Well, we have a handful of options and 2 untapped Superior Auspex vampires, so what do we want to do here? Well, we could just reduce that bleed for 2. Fair enough. Drew into another telepathic counter. It's looking like a long day for the Malks. They really have their work cut out for them here. Alright, here comes Osmo. He has an inherent +1 bleed. So Cassandra would be like, oh, okay, sure, I'll try and block that. And now, well, we did draw into that spying mission stealth card. I guess that's what we're going to play. Because he doesn't have, alright, I decided to retro it actually and have Gilbert come in, because that way we can at least play the bonding for +1 bleed, +1 stealth. And then, alright, Cassandra will go, okay, fine, here, you can go bleed my prey. Which card do I want to use to do it? And I think I elected to use the Murmur of the False Will. I like that card. Anyway, it goes into the Nazis, who can't do much about it. Now, the Malks could play the Spying Mission at Superior, but that's their only stealth card, and theirs not that nice. Alright, here comes Osmo. He's going to try and get a bleed in. Probably not very optimistically, given the cards that have been played so far. But he'll come in, and do I want to play any cards out of my hand at the start? Let's see. So I opt to use the Baron to give her to change a target, and then I draw into a Govern. And I'm like, okay, fine, Osmo will Govern bleed. And then, of course, Aleph is not going to let that go without a fight, so he'll elect to block. And then now the Malks would use their only stealth card so far with the Spying Mission, which he couldn't use anyway for its superior effect, since he only has basic Obfuscate. Draw to yet another combat card with Dodge. Alright, so there goes Telepathic Misdirection. Hey, Nazis, how about a bleed of 4? Ow! At stealth, no less. Very irresponsible bleeding here. I attempted to do it with the Spying Mission, but, sometimes these things just don't work out. And that will be the end of their very productive turn, not having done a single point of pool damage to their prey. I don't think they really want to bring up Lucian. He's too big of a capacity vampire and would leave them too vulnerable to being bled out by the Bruja. So, alright, the Tremere will untap. Thaumaturgy goes on Aleph, which he always wanted to do magic. And I believe at this point I elect to give Cassandra the Hawk. Because, that's a piece of equipment that she does well with. One, she's Tremere, so she can do the Walk of Flames, which I already have in my hand. And plus, she has +1 hand damage, so 2 rounds of that, and that's enough to torpor quite a few vamps. So, anyway. Then 2 transfers over to Lydia Van Kluwen to bring her up next turn. Now we're off to the Nazis. Hey, Blood Doll. It's really handy. Don't need to put it on Nichols for a mule, and he basically has one built in. Which, speaking of, I should have put one over there on Selma. Let's see, draw under Rumors of Gehenna. And, yeah, I'm now retroing the Nicholas Vermeulen over to Selma. Alright, and here Nicholas comes in, bleeds for 2 with a laptop computer. Life is fairly simple and straightforward. The Uma Hatch certainly can't do much about that, so 2 down, Biofreeze moves. Now, what would Sheldon do? Well, we could call a vote here. We do have some. There's some very exciting Rumors of Gehenna. Oh, I know. Hey, Prey, why not take some to the Dome? With bribes, no less. So, boom, he'd call that vote. 3 to his Prey, 1 to his Predator, playing bribes. And I'm sure probably everybody would jump on that. I mean, their cross-table allies, the Malks, I'm sure would vote for that. And everybody in these games, they love it when you play bribes because they gain pool. It does diminish the effectiveness a little bit because the Bruja have a titled vampire, and so they can vote for that vote and then gain 1 from the bribes and only end up losing 2, which they just did. Drew into a 4th tradition, the accounting. Oh, should come in handy. Another Blood Doll. This is a nice opening hand, really, for the Malkavians. Further enhanced by the Elder Library. I don't have enough to bring Selma up this turn, which she won't be far off, particularly not with a 4th tradition. Alright, here come the Bruja, and we'd have to, the Bruja are currently at 4, 8, 9 pool. What to do? Should we go forward? Should we go back? We do have a harass in hand. I think, alright, I decided at this point to just bleed forward for 2, and then another one with Uma Hatch, because they're all tapped out. So 2, 3, 4. There's a 4-point bleed from the Bruja. And it's, Bianca should not come up here, because given how much pool damage we're looking at from the Nosferatu, it's probably the best to just transfer 2 off, which ends up really hurting, because Helena Casimir is really the only combat monkey that we have, because Uma Hatch doesn't have Potence, and Lupo doesn't have Celerity. There are some Celerity skill cards in there, but we haven't drawn into any yet. Alright, going back to the Malks, here we go, untap everybody, untap the Barons. Pulse of the Canal at Superior, always nice. That card is so beautiful in bleed decks, because you don't end up ever needing to draw any more enhanced bleeders at that point. All you need is more stealth. And since they were so choked on stealth earlier, they start to draw into stealth later, and that's how they just run over people. So normal comes into computer hack bleed for 2. We reduce that to 0 with telepathic counters. Here comes Osmo. There are no stealth cards in his hand right now. He's not sure what to do. I think, yeah, at this point I elect to, okay, fine, just equip the blowtorch. I'm just trying to work through this glut in the hand. I probably should have used the Barons there, but look, trying to play 4 decks at once, it can be a little complicated. And I draw into another blowtorch anyway, so I use the Barons to discard that. And hey, there's a redirection, which would be handy if we had someone untapped, but oh well. Alright, here come the Tremere. So we'll play the Chantry. A very useful card. It doesn't end up being useful in this game, but against people like the Gangrel who keep putting you in torpor, the Chantry is really wonderful. So far, again, the Malks have done 0 pool damage to their prey, so this is looking very promising. And that's even letting the early Govern go. So I don't really feel the mistake of letting the Govern go until later in the game. VTES is one of those games where you don't really know how critical your early mistakes were until later. Alright, so yeah, I mean, at this point, the Tremere are looking great. I mean, they haven't taken any pool damage. They've been doing pool damage to their prey by redirecting bleeds. They just brought up a plus bleeder. Life is looking pretty good for them. Alright, here come the Malks. Nicholas Vermeulen transfers 1 off. We got Blood Doll over there from Sheldon. We got another Blood Doll we can play on somebody. Meanwhile, hey, let's 4th tradition the accounting down to Selma. And we will draw into a domain challenge. Anything else exciting going on here? I don't really want to call any of those votes right now. I'd rather just bleed for 2 because they have the edge and we don't want them to gain 1 for that. So, boom, there that goes. And then the edge moves. Selma comes up. Nosferatu are looking pretty strong. Nosferatu tend to win a lot of these pickup games. It's a reasonably good deck. And yeah, I don't need that many shattering blows, so dump that. Alright, here come the Bruja. They're untapping. Still no master cards. At this point, yeah, looking at 4, 8, 9 pool, and all those Malks behind me with all the votes they could possibly cast. I think I elected to go backwards, and since Helena was the only combat monkey, that means I would not be effectively, well, doing a forward bleed for 2 with her anyway. But it's combat decks are so tough here because we need to decide who am I going to rush. Am I going to rush backwards? Am I going to rush forward? What am I going to do? So you see how indecisive I am. I'm like, oh, maybe I should rush the Malks. No, wait, I'll rush backwards. If I had rushed the Malks, this game would have been entirely different. As it turned out, I decided to rush backwards and target Nicholas Vermeulen with his computer laptop computer rather. Well, first I bleed with Uma Hatch just for the heck of it. Then I harass with Helena Casimir and targeting Nicholas Vermeulen. Boom. Draw to replace. Selma could stand in the way of that. It's probably good she didn't, because with a hand like that, and given that the Nazis don't really have any combat defense, Selma would have gone to torpor. I mean, look how much damage gets shelled out here. Helena Casimir maneuvers to long with flash. Hey, now that we're at long range, sewer lid to the dome. Pow. And if you like that, well, hey, watch this. I'll do it again. Additional strike with acrobatics. Another sewer lid to the dome. Boom. She shelled out 6 points of damage in that round, which was way more blood than he had. The first sewer lid practically took him out. So acrobatics, sewer lid again. And if that wasn't enough, she got 2 presses off of it. That's Helena Casimir shelled out a fairly impressive combat there. I think in a real game, people would not want to block anymore unless they had a strike combat ends in hand or something like that. And here comes Lupo, kind of anticlimactically bleeding for 1. Alright, off to the Malkavians. We've got the pulse going, we've got some weapons, we've got barons, we've got tools. Alright, we're bleeding with pulse of the canal. And, Tremere is still fairly confident here. What should we do? They're going to block with Cassandra, say, okay, I'll use bonding to get an enhanced bleed. And then, well, we already know this song and dance. Well, we got 2 telepathic misdirections at hand. Let's use one of them. Okay, Aleph, send them on. Yeah, 4, because it's Pulse of the Canal plus bonding, so boom. And now the Nosferatu are about to be ousted, so that whole back rush on behalf of the Bruja was an entirely wasted action. If they had rushed forward, it would have been a very different game. The Malkavians at this point would be really worried because they've left the Nosferatu at 3 while they're irresponsible bleeding. The Tremere haven't bled forward once yet, but with all this redirected bleeding, they're looking to oust their prey on their next turn. So the Malks would probably be just freaking out, trying to apply as much pressure as they could and maybe get an oust this turn. So here comes Osmo with a threats. He has inferior dominate, so that would be a bleed of 3, not at stealth. So Cassandra would just move that on with telepathic misdirection. And Selma could actually block 1. There's 1 she could actually block. So boom. And I cycled into a dodge over there for Osmo. So I think I cycled into every single combat card in this deck. And here's normal. I think I'm out of computer hack, so there's not really much he can do. And he's looking at Lydia Van Kluwen, and she would probably eat him. So normal just stands up, and now we go to the Tremere turn. The Tremere are looking pretty good here. Their prayer at 3 pool. Lydia Van Kluwen now has superior thaumaturgy. There's a Metro Underground. There's a phase motion detector. So anyway, Lydia bleeds forward. Everybody's tapped out of there. Ow, there's a built-in bleed for 2. Leaves them at 1 pool. Okay, Aleph, go do your job. Aleph bleeds for 1. Boom. The Nosferatu, which is one of the best decks I got, it just boom, got ousted. But that's the magic of bleed redirections when you have a very heavy stealth bleed predator. So anyway, take a minute to clean up the table. I'll leave Cassandra untapped and then move on to the Bruja here, who have their work cut out for them. Play a Warzone Hunting Ground, just to get the card out of my hand, I guess. Throne Gates, always fun. Here comes Helena Casimir. And there's Awaken Redirect, so now Helena is bleeding into the Tremere. And now there's a predator-prey relationship between the Bruja and the Tremere. Not to mention, would Cassandra really want to, redirect if she had one anyway? So she's just going to take 2. And then there comes Uma Hatch. Normal's going to block with the 44. Uma Hatch is going to dodge with side slip. And here comes Lupo to get the bleed 1. Now the Malkavians start their turn, and this is where they really start to shine. So Osmo will gain Superior Obfuscate. Now we got a Computer Hack, a Govern, a Threats, a Bonding. or read intentions in another threat. So normal's coming in with computer hacking. Still no stealth cards, which is amazing. But at this point they just kind of swarm. Cassandra blocks. This is a cool combat. So normal can maneuver it along with 44 and shoot. And Cassandra's just going to take that to face. Ow. But then she can press to continue with the hog. And then round 2, normal would just shoot her in the face again, but then she can play Blood Fury, which would cancel the damage from the weapon. So Cassandra takes no damage that round, and normal goes off to torpor. Technically, normal took 4 points of damage because Cassandra's +1 strength comboed with Blood Fury to do an extra point of damage, but it didn't matter right there. Of course, this is all part of the greater plan of Malkavians, because now they got these extra bleeders coming in. So Pulse of the Knine makes it a 3, and Threats makes it a 5. Ow. That hurts. And they're taking that right to the dome, and then here comes Osmo in for 2. Oh wait, I'm sorry, Govern, make that 4. And then Threats will make it 5. He doesn't have Superior Dominate, otherwise it would go to 6. Anyway, finally drew into a stealth card there with Lost in the Crowds. So 6 points of 5 from Osmo, and then 5. So that was 10 pool that the Tremere didn't need. In retrospect, probably just should have taken the damage from normal. But oh well, I guess that was another mistake I made. So, well, the Malks have done all the damage they could possibly do. So now we go to the Tremere. And I screw up another one of their turns, because now I have Cassandra go for Rooter's Hand, which seems really tempting. They're down to 2 pool here. And I need to realize that if either one of those Malkavian vampires connects, they're going to do at least 2, because Osmo bleeds at 2, and Gilbert bleeds at 3. So there's really no difference between being at 1 pool and being at 2 pool. So I should go ahead and use the Metro Underground here to untap Cassandra. And for that matter, I shouldn't be getting Rooter's Hand. I should be getting the Phase Motion Detector to help on the intercept, which would stop the Loss in the Crowd. So I really ended up botching this turn. But you know what they say about hindsight. Anyway, you just draw under a Rooter's Hand, you get really excited. Oh, well, I start getting extraction spot. Anyway. So, and I leave the other 2 up, thinking, well, maybe they'll block. But, well, that Loss in the Crowds ended up working quite well. And I really should have tapped the Metro Underground here, paid a pool, and untapped Cassandra, but I didn't, for reasons unknown. I obviously did need a flak jacket, so discarded that. And now the rest of the match plays out pretty quickly. The Bruja, you know, the Malks are all tapped out. There's nothing they can do, so the Bruja come in to bleed for 4. They don't have any rush cards, so there's really nothing else they can do. So they bleed for 4. Boom, that leaves the Malkavians at 1. And at that point, it's make or break it time for the Malkavian deck. So. And here we go. Here's a bleed of 2. There's a bleed of another one, and another 1. So 2, 3, 4. Boom. And that leaves him at 1. This is where I said the 1 pool they gained off the edge ended up being really clutch. So they'll go ahead and play their MasterCard, the Elysium. And hey, here's an Obfuscate. There's the Barons. There's a Wake, comboing with Telepathic Counter, not that they really needed. So, yeah. Alright, let's see how much pool damage we can do here. So here comes Osmo, and we don't have any bleed action, so he's just doing this base bleed at 2. And if it's successful, Tremere go to block, and then, hey, we got Lost in the Crowds for 2 stealth because of the Obfuscate MasterCard. But Aleph has 2 intercept. Of course, if this bleed gets through it, it's lights out for the Tremere. Okay, 2 intercept. What else can we do here? We've already used our Barons. Yeah, looks like combat's going to happen, so alright. Here we go. Osmo has the Blowtorch, and will knock Aleph down to torpor. If only there was another Blood Fury or Blood Rage or something. But, no, alas. Hey, there's a Theft of Vitae, which is not exactly the same. And really, I should have played Trap there. That was another mistake, just to cycle cards. But, alright, stole one for Theft of Vitae. Aleph goes to Torpor. And now here comes Gilbert. And I made a clutch draw into another stealth card over there. So Lydia Van Kluwen, who does not have Superior Obfuscate, will go to block. And then he's got 2 intercept off of Lost in the Crowds. She's only got 1 from Enhanced Senses. So, well, we drew into another intercept. Now she's got 2. And then, of course, we got the bonding. Very clutch. That gives a stealth. So, boom, here we go. Now it's a 3 stealth bleed. That's going to be hard to stop. So, well, we have a Forced Awake, so we can target that on Cassandra, hoping to draw into another Enhanced Senses. Boy, it sure would be good if she had the phase motion detector. Well, drew into a telepathic counter. We can reduce the bleed, which is currently for 4, down to 2, which is not going to help us. Well, we can give her an intercept of 1. There's the Blood Rager needed a minute ago. Oops, look at that, we lose. So, anyway, the Malkavians oust the Tremere at this point, and then it's just a foot race between the Brujah and the Malkavians, who is going to, oh yeah, and I'm basically saying, darn, I should have used the Metro Underground to untap Cassandra, but oh well. So that's my wife laughing in the background at my ineptitude of not using the Metro Underground. And now we go over here to the Brujah, who, wow, are looking in a real war to hurt. The deflection certainly isn't going to be very useful to them. And unfortunately, they don't have any rush cards. Another rush card or Haven Uncovered here would be wonderful, because, you know, the Malkavians don't have a whole lot of combat to compete. But, alas, we're just bleeding for 4. And, of course, they just gained 6 pool off their VP, so they have 7, so minus 4 will put them down to 3. Which is, you know, not bad, but still, it's, you know, it's not enough in the face of that kind of heavy bleed. So the Brujah have a respectable 8 pool, but that's just going to vanish in the face of this onslaught. So, hey, he just gained Superior Dominates. Now Osmo has got Superior at everything. Here comes a bleed for 3. Oh, make that for 4 with Computer Hack. Which means now they just have to bleed for 4 more. Oh wait, I'm sorry, there was a threats involved, so that wasn't a bleed for 4, that was a bleed for 6. And then Osmo comes in with a bleed for 2. The end.